You're listening to Brigade Radio 1.
Welcome to the Antisocial Show.
They're coming. They're coming. They're coming. They're coming to get you.
Your hosts, Underblock and Tyson Sater.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Anti-Social Show, where tonight we'll explore the upside down. I'm Hunter Block, and he's
Tyson Sater.
So that, dear listener, was a Stranger Times reference. If you're a big fan of Stranger Times, Stranger Things. Sorry, long day. So if you're a big fan of Stranger Things, then you would know that the Upside Down is the alternate reality in which they explore from. Yes, bad stuff happens, and you don't want to go there.
No.
So
I've seen the first two seasons, and that's it.
The third season was phenomenal, and they're coming out with a fourth season soon. So I literally binge watched the entire first season in like one day.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's only like eight episodes per season, so or something like that. So
okay,
but yeah, I love Stranger Things. It's the best. It also made me want to play Dungeons and Dragons again in a big bad way.
Oh yes, yeah. It's been a while since I played Dungeons and Dragons, but yeah. I mean, there's something very much. Well, it's like it's sort of a nod to films of a bygone era. And one of the things that them playing Dungeons and Dragons reminds me of is E.T.
Oh, yes.
Anyway, actually, I believe it's the same year that E.T. came out. I think the first season starts in either 82 or 83. I think it's 82.
83.
Hey, Google. What year does the first season of Stranger Things take place?
1983. According to Wikipedia, the first season begins in November 1993, when Will Byers is abducted by a creature from the Upside Down.
Yeah, okay, so that makes sense, because, I think it's the second season, which this isn't a spoiler, but, well, it is kind of, but it has to do with, there's a video game that is prominently featured in the second season, prominently in that, just for, a scene, it's referenced heavily for people who remember it, and I thought the game came out in 83, but I guess it might have come out in 84, I suppose. Either that or it's an anachronism, it's hard to say. Anyway, I'm not going to look it up right now. Surprisingly. Alright. There we are.
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Can.
Yeah.
Thank you. Loud and clear, sir.
Hold on.
Okay.
Do me a favor, talk for a second.
Looking good, Ethan.
'Twas Sprillig and the slithy toves did gyre and gibble in the wabe. All whimsy were the borogoves, and the moomraths outgrabe. Beware the jabberwock, my son, jaws that bite, claws that catch. Beware the jub-jub bird, and shun the frumious bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand, long time the Maxon foe he sought. So rested he by the tum-tum tree, and stood awhile in thought. And, as in uffish thought he stood, the jabberwock with eyes of flame came. Yes, what, Hunter?
Are you reading the Jabberwocky?
No, reciting it.
Reciting it. Poetry.
Yeah,
Can you hear us okay, Ethan?
Oh, you might not be able to hear us now. It's he asked me to talk so I could, so he could, I guess, adjust his levels. There we go. And as an uffish thought he stood, the jabberwock with eyes of flame. Can you hear me okay, sir? He says he's connecting to audio on the thing.
All right, I can hear you.
There you go.
Okay. You're looking good. You're looking good, Ethan.
Oh, you're too kind. Welcome to the 21st century, guys. Nice to see you got Zoom going.
Thank you.
Thank you for making it easy on us.
Well, you know what it was? Where I was outside thinking about it. I said, you know what? It's actually good if we have both Skype and Zoom just in case, because how you didn't think about, people still using Skype. We didn't think about people not using Skype anymore either. It's like, this Zoom thing took over, and that's fine. I mean, we're, we like to make everything work on Antisocial Show. That's all.
Well, that's very kind of you. No, I am technically really impaired. So Zoom was just a much simpler system and it had an easier flow to it. So we switched over. Skype was always sort of this obnoxious wrecking ball of crazy that crashed my system, and I was just happy to get rid of it. I'm sorry, but it's nice to see you both. You guys look good.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's been a while since I've seen you, man. You look good. Hunter, it looks like you're in like an Area 51 gift shop.
Yeah, this is the permanent home of Antisocial Show, at least for the studio on this side of the earth, anyway.
Yeah.
But
are we rolling? Is this the show?
Yeah, it is.
Yes, we are. We are officially rolling. So it's
Well, you guys should be embarrassed. Like, who was the real guest that canceled?
No one canceled. You are the real guest.
Nice try. Nice.
You are the real guest. I promise.
But
right. We should.
You don't have to tell me that.
No, trust me. You are the real guest. As I told you, you are always welcomed on. Anytime. You could drop us a text and say, "Hey, you doing the show? I want to come on." You always have the invite.
You don't want that. Don't do that to yourself. No, come on.
Yes, I do.
So, my background, I've chosen the hoary netherworld.
And
is that what that is?
Yeah. That's that.
I have an Area 51 gift shop background.
So, yeah, Hunter looks like he's in an Area 51 gift shop. Tyson looks like he's standing in front of an old Roger Corman pit and pendulum backdrop.
Or it's like an Ed Wood thing where the general just kind of stands on binoculars.
Well, if it was Ed Wood, you would be slightly out of focus and looking in the wrong direction for the upcoming cut. But that's not. I love Ed Wood, though, for what it's worth. We did a breakdown of an Ed Wood movie once, you and I.
Yes, we did. We did Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Yeah, one of his best.
Certainly.
We should give our guest a proper intro, though.
Okay.
Tyson, you want to do the honors?
Oh, okay. Sure. I like that. It's like, well, we should cut the turkey. Here's the knife, Tyson.
That's right.
Yeah. Let's see. So please welcome back to the program, host of Combat Radio, among other things, Ethan Dettenmaier.
Yeah.
Also the leader over at BrigadeRadio1.org, I assume, still.
Yeah, well, I mean, if there's been a mutiny, they haven't let me know yet. Who knows? Yeah, we're based over at Universal, still doing Brigade Radio 1 and still carrying this show. How are you guys?
Oh, we're doing fine. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's nice to be here. It's you guys do this show late, huh? You guys are a couple of cryptic, kind of a cryptic schedule.
Yeah, I mean, it's technically 10 o'clock Cali time for you guys?
A little bit now, yeah. It is about almost quarter after 10. Mm-hmm.
It is 1:13 a.m. Jersey time. But to me that's not. This is my normal time to be awake. It's when I can get stuff like this going, and the wife is asleep on the other side of the house and she won't hear a thing. So
okay. Well, it's a privilege to be here. Like I said, I don't know who your real intended guest was, but I'm happy to fill in and do what damage I can, and hopefully your listenership won't take over the appearance.
You are the real intended guest. We talked about this last week, but Tyson had to.
That sounded like a struggling, exasperated defense right there. Like, well, you are sort of. Yeah, you're the guy. Come on. Anyway, it is fun to be here. So whatever I can do, I don't know exactly. It's been a while since I've been on the show. I do follow your work, and I'm happy to do whatever I can to try to keep.
Thank you. Just out of curiosity, where can people listen to Combat Radio?
Go to BrigadeRadio1.org. Click on Combat Radio. You click on all the shows there. There's some great talent. I do a show with Adrian Paul of Highlander fame there. There's a couple of shows from some Warner Brother executives, some senior VPs over at Warner Brothers. There's a lot of different interesting shows over there. The guys from Harry Potter do a show. So just go to BrigadeRadio1.org. And it's not just my show. I mean, honestly, you would be doing yourself a disservice to that. There's other shows there that are actually much, much better. that you can listen to, including this. A lot of rock stars do shows over there too. Those guys are usually pretty outrageous. So yeah, brigaderadio1.org. Thanks for the plug. Hey, you know where I was today?
Where's
so
that?
Today I was on the set of the House on Haunted Hill.
Really?
Ooh.
Yes, also the Blade Runner house, the NS house. And yesterday, get this,
NSL.
I was at the Borjo Pass, Romania, otherwise known as Vasquez Rocks, where they shot the opening of Dracula. I was not only at the opening of of Dracula and Vasquez Rocks, but I had to make a run to the bridge that's in Lost Boys.
Ooh.
So, which, by the way, I don't know if you guys know, there's been some debate about this bridge online, but when I worked at Warner Brothers in feature development, I was in Building 81 with Joel Schumacher, the director of Lost Boys. And you know who was in that building with us? John Milius,
Wow.
Clint Eastwood, Christopher Nolan, the Wachowskis, and a couple of other assholes, and me. And Joel Schumacher was on one end of it. And so everyone thinks that bridge is in Santa Cruz, but the bridge is actually in Valencia, California. That's
Nice.
tonight's fun fact
very
regarding 80s vampire movies that nobody cares about.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
you got to give the Lost Boys like some credit because as far as vampire movies go, the '80s really had it. I mean, I know the millennials love their Twilight. I mean, it's all happy days.
Don't say that. Don't do that. Don't put that on them. Don't do that. That's like telling someone they suck when they show up for batting practice. Come on, give them a chance. And I don't think the movie's bad. Don't get me wrong. I just think that the fact I gave everyone that the bridge is in Valencia is pretty bad. The movie itself is kind of fun. So I had to do a commentary on a trailer to it recently, actually. It was interesting to rewatch it.
Oh, cool.
I love the Lost Boys. To me, that was like again one of, and of course, I think I might be standing solo here by myself when it comes to this one particular movie that Tyson and I talk about once in a while. But it was Franklin, and because Franklin Gell is a Jersey boy. I loved his vampire. I loved his adaptation of Dracula.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Never
You're
saw
not
it.
alone in that. You're not alone in that. That has a really strong director, actually. I think it's not John Borman, but that was a really well-directed film. I saw that last Halloween for the first time in probably 20 years. Thought, man, that's good. It's really, 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 from a production design standpoint, there's a really good architectural angle on the entire movie, frame by frame. Anyway, that's a good call. I think so. I just think it's brilliant. But look,
Yes.
I don't want to derail you guys with what I think is interesting. It's what you guys think is interesting.
Well, I mean, I enjoy talk of things like well-framed films as much as anybody else. I mean, frame composition is one of my favorite things to look for. Or to it's actually very difficult for me to look at a film without taking in details and things like that. Go ahead.
No, I'm listening to what finish your thought. I don't want to talk though.
Well, it is difficult. I mean, I will literally just look at something and I'll have to stop. It's usually the first time too. It's not like later like that. Usually, if something is well framed, it hits me immediately. Like if it's a nice shoulder shot, if there's like light and darkness, if it's all imbalanced, if there's things in the background and the foreground, it's all in one frame. Like just whether it's mise en scène or something that's a composite shot. As long as it's in the frame in a cool way, I really, it's very stimulating. I don't know. That's,
You know what? You're absolutely right. Composition is key. And that's, something Clint Eastwood would tell you that he learned from Kurosawa. But, the internet will correct me on this as they so often do, even when I'm right. But it might have been John Badham that directed that version of Dracula. And
I believe it was.
And that is actually an underrated version of Dracula. Now, here's the thing about Lost Boys, right? Since I had to tell some Joel Schumacher stories, who recently passed away. May he rest in peace. And I had to do like a commentary on the trailer from a Warner Brothers archive standpoint. And I was talking about Capello, the sax guy, that does not sing the song that everyone thinks he sings. He just does the performance. He lip syncs the performance. That's actually the band The Call that he's doing. But everyone seems to think that he was Tina Turner and Peter Gabriel's sax guy.
Yeah.
But here's the thing I was thinking about watching the movie. Is it a good movie? Or is it a fun movie that is good because it's fun? Because it's got some interesting things to it, and it's fun to watch. But I'd be damned if I thought it was I'm going to get fucking ripped for this. Sorry about my language, but
it's okay.
These guys moved to the murder capital of the world, Santa Carla, which is funny, right? Because Santa Cruz didn't want their name used because in the script, and this is from the Warner Brothers production notes, in the script it said murder capital of the world. What's unique about that is Santa Cruz was actually referred to realistically in the late 70s and early 80s as the murder capital of the world because of what was going on with some of the serial killers up there, right? So
Wow.
they didn't want that. So anyway, so I'm looking at the movie going, okay, so these guys move to town.
Mm-hmm.
This guy meets a girl on the boardwalk. She gets on some other guy's bike. He decides to get in a race with him. He almost gets killed. And then they invite him to this cave where he eats what is supposed to be Chinese food, right? He gets deceived.
Yeah.
He drinks the blood. They go to the bridge, and now he's damaged. And I thought, damn, that's an express setup. Like, I don't think I would have gotten the bike chase. And I don't think, if she got on another guy's bike, and by the way, the cast in the movie's excellent. Patrick has always said that he didn't want to do the movie, which to me, he just reads some bullshit because he was a starving actor. How would you not want to do a movie if it came your way and you're working at McDonald's? Anyway,
Jason Patrick?
So, yeah, he always said, he was working at McDonald's. He worked there 3 days before he quit. He didn't want to do the movie. It sounds so like elitist, right? Like, I'm not sure I want to do your movie. What the fuck are you doing? Just take the job, dumbass.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I would have.
But I love that he's got to tell this story like the movie was beneath him in script form. No offense, Patrick. Don't come at me after this. But anyway, so I was just watching it and thinking it out, going, is it really plausible? I mean, I guess it's still a fun movie, but are you gonna like wander the boardwalk in Santa Carla, California? And this movie could have taken place anywhere, but I love that they chose Santa Cruz. Anyway, your thoughts on that, guys?
Just from a practical standpoint, I see. So, like the idea, the logic behind it, it is a good question. I did tweet recently about Lost Boys, like very recently, because they mentioned on Nooner, a podcast I do the Tumblr for on Tuesday nights at 7:30 live.
Good plug.
Thank you.
See, that's how Pro does it, folks.
And it was my idea. My thought was that I don't know if I know that like I have a lot of affection, like collective nostalgia and affection for the various people who are in the film, and I don't know if I can be objective about whether it's good or not. But I haven't seen it in a while, so I really need to see it because I did really like it back in the day. And by the way, the saxophonist you were mentioning, I believe he is in the Tina Turner's Private Dancer tour, the filmed concert, because we used to have that. My mom likes Tina Turner, and so do I, but like Private Dancer tour is great. And I was like, that's the same guy who's in Lost Boys.
No, he worked a long time, and he did a lot of work with Tina and Peter Gabriel, and it's funny because he always comes up in Lost Boys discussions because he's such like a hallmark visual of the time, right? Look, I mean, I guess the answer is if you like the movie, and I do like the movie, right? I think the movie's fun.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just kind of wondering, watching it, going, God, I don't know. She gets on Kiefer Sutherland's bike, and then Kiefer Sutherland like invites him to a race, tries to get him killed. He gets punched by this guy, then invites him to the clubhouse. It's like this isn't the way most evenings progress. It's just but it works. The movie works, and everyone's great. The cast, a few of those guys are no longer with us, and it should be pointed. And what are these guys doing on the merry-go-round in the first place? I mean, aren't they a little old for a merry-go-round to be like walking around? Let these kids have their fun.
How old are you? Right. I was always kind of confused about how old they were supposed to be, like, or if they're teenagers or if they were like young 20-somethings. Because definitely Corey Haim's character is supposed to be a teenager, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, in the original script, when Donner was going to direct it, before Donner got the Lethal Weapon assignment,
also
they were all really young. Yes, we just lost. And
wow.
Our post-production supervisor at Brigade Radio 1 is Mark Marshall, who worked on Harry Potter, but started his career with Donner, so he's devastated. We're all sort of shocked. Now, I used to see Donner around Warner Brothers when I started there delivering mail, and right across the street from him was Joel Silver's office, and Joel Silver was always walking around in these high-end pajamas. It was hilarious. But Donner was always a great guy with us under-the-line guys, like the nobodies, myself included, who was like just a mailroom attendant. He was always very cool. So a much missed guy, and he affected the industry in ways few of us will ever fully understand. But when Donner was going to direct Lost Boys, all those characters were supposed to be like 8, 9 years old. So Schumacher actually came up with the correct assumption, which is kids tend to like to watch movies about people slightly older than themselves. Like if you're in junior high, you watch about high school, and if you're in high school, you want to watch about. And I think there is some truth to that. So they kind of made them all a little older. And everyone's good. And, they're also here's the thing. Like, I know Corey Feldman takes some flack because he based his performance off of Rambo 2.
Oh, really?
But Yes, he's
That's
on the record thing.
funny.
And now you look at it, and it is Stallone kind of doing like, Murdoch.
And they grunt. They're like,
Get you. Yeah. But I
Yeah.
mean, he's hilarious.
yeah.
I mean, everyone
Haim
does a great job.
Corey Haim's
Yeah.
always fun to watch. Yeah. By the way, one of my favorite things that he's done. It's not that recently anymore, but it's fairly recently. Was his? I'm an unironic fan of the song "Ascension Millennium" and that video that he did for it. I think it's a fun piece of music, and the video is very well put together.
I haven't seen it. I know when he was doing some musical incentives to try to get some music recorded and albums out that some of our staff is helping him out.
Mm-hmm.
I encourage that because I know he's a target, but my thoughts are if the guy wants to do it, let him.
Yeah.
It's there for you if you appreciate it. And if you don't, shut the fuck up and get on your way. Nobody cares. It's just so interesting how people that guy polarizes people. And people tend to like, how dare this guy sort of embrace his love for music and dance and do all these things. It's interesting how he's like publicly punished and for that. So let the guy do whatever he's going to do. If you don't like it, there's plenty of other entertainment out there.
Definitely unfairly maligned, I'd say.
Yeah. He's always been good with us. I mean, he's done charity things with us at a drop of a hat. He left Disneyland once to do a charity broadcast. The guy's been fantastic, and for years. Anyway, he got his first movie, I think. This came up in one of our interviews with Star Trek II Wrath of Khan director Nicholas Meyer,
Mm-hmm.
who also directed Time After Time.
Mm-hmm.
And that, according to Meyer, was Corey Feldman's first job. Appearance in Time After Time.
Oh, well, earlier than Friday the 13th Part 4.
I think so, yeah. That's so funny. We were just talking Friday the 13th movies and how a friend of ours got killed in one, and it's like his claim to fame, Roger Rose. Like he's done a lot of stuff, but being killed in a Friday the 13th movie in Griffith Park, shot it 40 yards from one of the prime tourist attractions in LA. It's so funny how, the film industry works. It's like you think they're out in some sort of mythical abandoned campsite. Really, they're right next to, a couple of taco trucks and an observatory.
Well, sure. What's great is, because this Camp Crystal Lake has a very specific geography as far as I could see. Huh?
It's up North Jersey.
Right, but I mean, the one in the movie, the way that they compile it out of various scenes and locations, and it's like it's not based on one. It is, obviously based on a lake, but it's like for the film, it's got its own geology that exists, or geography, the layout that exists within the universe of the films, and that's what they used to create the map that you went around on in the Friday the 13th, the video game, 3D one where you can either play as Jason or you can play as camp counselors trying to get away from Jason. And it's I played it on my show, Tyson Sander Gamer, on my channel, on my YouTube channel, and I loved.
Who were you? Were you Jason or the camp counselors?
First game I actually played 2 sessions for 2 videos. The first time around I was purely I believe I was a camp counselor, but the second time through I got to play as Jason. And
that tells us a lot about you.
I think it's random. I think like you go online and then it just decides what you're going to play as.
Try to excuse it, man. If you want to play a homicidal maniac in the video game world, look, no one's going to stop you. I just think it says a lot about you.
Well,
you know where I'm at tomorrow? Speaking of homicidal maniac, I'm on the set of the original Halloween tomorrow.
Oh, yes.
Again, we do a lot of broadcast work from there, and it's easy to get to, but I'm back there. But that only came to mind because we were talking about, homicidal killers.
Sure.
So continue, Tyson.
No, that's fine. Which location for the first one?
I'm at the original Michael Myers house.
The house.
The hedge where he came out, and then I'm going to pop over to the house that was used by Laurie Strode, where she lived in. And then I'm going over to the hardware store, which is now one of our favorite Indian restaurants in town, and I'm going over there afterwards.
Neat.
I got to do sort of a broadcast piece. We've done it a few times from there, and it's always a lot of fun. I've done it with Michael Lang, the director of the X-Files, because he's a big kid. So, but that's kind of the movie that I think probably the Friday the 13th owe a bit of a debt to. But this Halloween, I'm not wearing the Michael Myers mask. I'm wearing the hockey mask because it breathes easier.
Oh, it definitely does. Now, your thoughts, guys. The original Michael Myers movie, or the original Halloween, came out in 1978, which really launched the dawn of the slasher movies, in my opinion, anyway. And it ran a good, a good series of movies, obviously. But now you have the Rob Zombie remake. So did you guys see the Rob Zombie remake? What was your take on it if you did?
Tyson, go ahead.
I have not seen the Rob Zombie remakes. I've seen Halloween 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't fully have the appreciation for Rob Zombie's work that other people do, although I know that Michael Myers that's in that mask, Taylor May. We've had him on Combat Radio, and he's excellent, and he tells some really good production stories.
Tyler Mane, also Sabretooth in the first X-Men movie?
Yeah, Troy, a few interesting things. I mean, Dick Warlock was Michael Myers the second time around, and Nick Castle played him the first time around before he jumped into director. So, but actually, Castle gets the credit and Castle got the pay. But I heard somebody say that everyone from Deborah Hill to the caterer was in the Michael Myers suit at one point, depending on what they needed that particular day. And that's not a knock on Nick Castle. It's just the way those productions tend to work, out of need.
Sure.
But I liked what I saw of Maine's work, but I can't say that I really like to watch people on screen butchering each other. I had this conversation last night. Like, I enjoy sort of the mood of Halloween, in part because it's on Halloween. Although, when you think about the movie, the timeline's out of whack. First of all, she carves that pumpkin way too late. That pumpkin gets carved at the end of the night. I mean, most of the people are already whacked. Most of the other babysitters have already been whacked by that time, right? And how does Michael Myers haul this gravestone without being seen from the graveyard into the suburb and mount it at the head of this bed? I mean, and then what's he thinking when he decides to wear the mask, throw a sheet on, and then throw glasses on? It's like, is he being a prankster, or is he like? Because I was looking at that going, what the. This guy doesn't. Doesn't know any practicality.
It's a hat on a hat.
Was it Stan Zimmerman we had on the show when I called somebody a creepy pervert?
Yes.
So
not him, but somebody.
Not him, obviously, but yeah. The last time I said the word creepy pervert, Tyson came up with a great bleep for that, and don't ask me how the hell I missed that. But I mean, it is funny because if you think about it, you have two teenagers, right? Late 70s, 1978, you have two horny teenagers. First of all, they roll up in a van, right? And they're, they get out of the van. All these beer cans are like
so 70s, pulling up in a van. So 70s. Anyway,
all these beer cans just fall out of the truck. They're sneaking into someone else's house for the pure intent of having sex.
Right.
They do have sex, and then the guy goes down, gets the beer, whatever. He gets taken out, and then here comes Michael Myers, like in his costume and a ghost costume with a pair of glasses on. To me, that's like that's like watching some creepy pervert outside your window at night. You know what I mean?
Or a creepy pervert watching you.
Right. Exactly. Right. So I mean, I think more so in that particular scene is probably more creepier than any other scene in that movie, just because basically you have a guy standing right there, the pair of glasses on, and a ghost costume. Yes, Tyson.
No, go ahead. I just wanted to, when you finish, I gotta clarify something. But go ahead.
Go ahead, clarify something. I'm done.
Oh, okay. So I just want to clarify. I didn't specifically bleep out the words "creepy pervert." What he said was effing and then the word rapist, and
right.
So I tend to bleep. I use a specific bleep for each swear word or whatever that comes up, and I just don't like the word rapist, so I put a normal bleep over it. Not a funny thing, because I don't think that word should have a funny noise.
Right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. And I love Stan Zimmerman, but let me just get back to your point, Hunter, real quick. That's the idea, right? That this guy sort of trespasses against everything you hold sort of sanctimonious, So I it's interesting. It's like he walks through that. First of all, this guy that's in the house, that's using the house for whatever he wants, and going in the kitchen and looking for more beer in someone else's house, that would be in certain states a killing offense anyway.
Yes.
So depending on how redneck the neighborhood was, right? So right. He goes down and he's like robbing someone else's refrigerator, and he's looking for beer, and he's he's doing what he's doing upstairs. It's not even his house. It's come on. Right. Like, why do you have the van in the first place? I'll point out a couple of things though about the movie. First of all, my daughter watching, she goes, it suddenly hit her once watching it. We were doing some research going into a project we start tomorrow, and she goes, high school? They're in high school? I thought they were in college this whole time because they look so old. You
Right.
know? And none of us questioned it when the movie came out when we were kids. None of us questioned it, right? But it is funny because then when she said it, it did kind of hit home. Like, yeah, they do kind of seem like high school students. But the other thing, too, is watching that movie with my wife, she can't sit through it because she sits there and she goes, I cannot believe this woman has, like, not twice, but 3 times dropped the knife. She goes, and she's the one that got us started on a really kind of famous combat radio clip with producer Dan Truly, who was on it, Law and Order SVU, where we were talking about how if the movie was, if the Halloween movie took place in a neighborhood like Watts or Compton, how long would the movie actually go? And our bet was somewhere between 3.5 and 4.5 minutes because, you know, it's just not, it's a little bit different than walking into some sort of Midwest suburbs. I mean, you go into those neighborhoods and those guys, those are the neighborhoods where they took down the Night Stalker. So it's funny because it's like, you watch this. And I remember like watching the remake, and those kids are going in the haunted house. Yeah. And in the frowns. And, the kids are going in the haunted house and my wife shakes her head and she goes, that's such a weird people thing. She's like, you wouldn't catch any of us willingly going into a haunted house.
Right. That is, you're right. She's absolutely right. That is such a white person thing because, take,
it's true.
Take for example, you watch any like horror movie involving like haunted houses and stuff like that. Like, Murder House on American Horror Story, the Amityville house, in Amityville. And it 9 times out of 10, like they're selling it to some white people and they give the information like 13 or 20 people died here viciously, and they're like, okay, well, where do we sign on the dotted line because we're moving in now, we're gonna buy it, we're getting such a great deal, honey. Right. It is such a white person thing. Like the intelligent thing to do would be like to go in the other direction, not walk into the house. But yeah.
I do love the movie, though. I do love the movie for what it's worth. And I know it sounds like we're being very disparaging with it, but
which one?
It's a fun movie, the Halloween.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's a fun movie, in part because it's not about creative ways to dismember people, which is what the new trailer looked like to me. And it was actually very disturbing for me to watch firefighters get massacred after, my house being a command post for the LAFD and we have out here and the level of sacrifice. And I'm watching these, these firefighters get killed by Michael Myers in the trailer going, God, is that what these movies have come down to? Is just just creative ways to take a human body apart? Because I prefer the suspenseful aspects of it. Maybe that's just a matter of taste, I guess. I'm sorry.
No, it seems a little, is this new Halloween movie that's coming out, is it also a Rob Zombie thing?
No, it's not.
No.
It's actually part of a new trilogy, I guess, or a new franchise. But here's the thing. Yes, but when it comes to the Rob Zombie reboot, first of all, the sequel sucked. Majorly disappointed in that. So if you ever don't even bother watching it. The only thing I didn't like about the Rob Zombie remake was simply this. So when you looked at the original Halloween franchise, right, you obviously know that at one point Michael Myers, he has a family, obviously, because that's what he spends his career doing, killing his family members and anybody else that gets in his way. But you don't really know how this human being became like such a wrath of nature. Like you don't know how he became like this supernatural force because obviously, in the second one, or the end of the first one, Dr. Loomis shot him like 5 times and then he fell off the balcony and then he just gets up and starts walking away. Well, his famous line from part 2 was Dr. Loomis. He's like, I shot him 5 times. I shot him. Sheriff, this guy isn't human. And, but the thing with the Rob Zombie remake was the fact that he made this evil force more humanized when he showed like him being a child and, killing animals and things like that. So I think that's what really destroyed the whole Michael Myers thing. It's kind of like when they did the remake of Friday the 13th. They made Jason more humanized by having him abduct people and kidnapping people, which he doesn't do to begin with.
I don't know that you need that. Honestly, I kind of like it more mysterious, like it's just some shadow out of the horizon on Halloween. Carpenter, I heard him privately say he didn't really like that, and that was just something they worked into the sequel when they were desperate for Halloween 2, the one Rosenthal directed. So I don't know necessarily that you need the whole family connection. I mean, it's almost kind of better that there's not a target, that the neighborhood doesn't know who this guy's coming after every Halloween. Instead, because I think you're one step away from it being the Wicker Man, right? He's coming for the Strode girl, so let's grab her and let's crucify her in the center of town. So let's get the sacrifice over like Dragon Slayer, right?
Right.
But it's almost kind of better that he's coming into town and you don't know who he's going to get, and everyone's in danger. But that's just a personal preference as far as suspense works. It's like
that's
however you want it.
I agree. That's why I like it, because it is I like mysterious is what I like. And it's the same thing. Well, I didn't like the Nightmare on Elm Street remake was because for the same reason they took Freddy Krueger, who was in fact, yes, a child killer, but they turned him into a creepy little child toucher who lived in a posh school basement. It's like, no, that's not what he was about. He had a house, he had a wife, he had a child, and nobody knew that he was the child slasher in town until they caught him and they torched him. But to take him and turn him into a child toucher, it's such a disgusting slap in the face on that whole franchise. That was such a great franchise from the 80s. It was just why.
That's a dark that's a dark element to add to a movie, and I think honestly it takes a lot of the fun out of it. I mean, the homicidal rate is enough to kind of be a little disturbed by. I mean, I'm all in for some of that, but just a personal preference, I guess. I mean, it's hard to make a movie. I've been on a few, and it's hard to make a movie. These guys, they come up with creative ideas. Sometimes they're vetoed. I was in a meeting with Mustafa Akkad and his son over at Trankins when he was alive. And it's interesting to see how the mind works of the guy that's cutting the check. Mm-hmm. And what's of value to him versus what the creators want to do and creatively do. And it's hard, and you get a kind of a hodgepodge of people desperately trying to reinvent the wheel on something that I don't necessarily know needs to be reinvented. I mean, I'm quite frankly, and I hate to say this because I loved Halloween when it came out. I was a big John Carpenter advocate as a kid. He didn't get much respect, but I feel it's tired. I feel like it's okay. We get it. He's going to go on a killing spree. Like there's no inventiveness to it. And my daughter came up with the best Halloween sequel I've ever heard, which is you get The Rock, call him Boulder Johnson, and one other guy, and they know Michael Myers is in this town, so they cordon off the town and they send in these two guys with weapons, and it's almost like a buddy comedy horror movie where they go and blow half the fucking town up and Boulder Johnson against Mike Myers. And then when the whole movie's over and napalm has taken out half the buildings, you have a clown pop out of the gutter, and now it's Pennywise in the next movie, and you kind of just go, it's the only way you can spin it is like with some sort of comic, almost scary / slightly satirical. I just don't know. It's like and I hate to say this because I know I'm tramping on the work of artists, but it seems tired. The storylines just don't seem inventive. They seem almost exhausting to see.
It could breathe life into the genre. Like
I don't know what to do. I just honestly,
like Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein kind of thing.
Well,
yeah, and that was fun. That stuff was fun, and it worked at the time. It was really the only way to step to the left on that whole franchise with those monsters at the time, if you remember. I mean, we weren't alive for it, but if you look at the historical timeline of the making of this, they'd done everything you could possibly do. They had all met each other in melees, and that didn't work out so great. So you fuse in another couple of guys that are from another universe, but fit really well, and they bring this whole new dimension. You got a whole another set of classics, but I don't know what you can do. I really don't know what the solution is. I'm just brainstorming out loud and pontificating in a way I probably shouldn't on an open microphone.
Well, it's a very common kind of like, so whether it's a boogeyman or a kaiju, there's this, so it's always us against thing, and then us against some other thing, and then eventually it's first thing against second thing, and then sometimes it's big thing against other big thing, and
I can't tell Halloween 5 from whatever Halloween we're on apart. That's the sad thing. You guys probably can. You're way more articulate than I am.
I think it was the Revenge,
Resurrection. I mean, they have cool titles. Don't get me wrong. The titles are fantastic. But I mean, I saw one where a guy was in a field and like the lights went out, and then you saw Michael Myers standing there. The lights went out again. Michael Myers was a little closer when the lights in the field came back. I don't know why there's lights in the field. And then like he's like, who is that? Is that Danny? Like, no, asshole. We all know there's no suspense here. We all know what's going to happen. This is a real tired way to do it. I just feel like everyone's like, all right, I got the directing assignment. They're giving me, it's like a Hallmark movie now for horror fans. It's like they're giving me 21 days and a budget of $6 million. Here we go. So that's what it feels like to the viewer. Never mind. This is starting to become very derogatory, and I apologize.
You know, there's one fairly inventive film that's come out the last let's say the last 5 years. Has it been 5 now? I think it came out in 2017. Ethan, did you ever see Dave Made a Maze?
No, how is it?
It's really good.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of horror film. It's almost not a horror film, but it's kind of like the main character is a guy named Dave, and it's played by Nick Thune, the comedian and personality, I suppose. And he builds a labyrinth made of cardboard in the middle of the home that he and his girlfriend share, because it's his way of dealing with his issues. And then he gets stuck in his labyrinth, and people have to come in and try and rescue him. So there's all these creatures and things happening, and it's all made out of cardboard. So there's like a cardboard minotaur. There's, cardboard booby traps. It's a really inventive thing, and it's definitely worth a look. It's directed by a guy named Bill Watterson. It's not the Calvin and Hobbes Bill Watterson. It's the other Bill Watterson.
I was going to say it's a series we should know, but I'm gonna take your recommendation on that and see that. That sounds interesting. It reminds me of the Wall Buddy episode of Regular Show. Instead of clean their rooms, they bring in like a portable wall system that actually just walls that section of the mess off, and looks like and then the wall kind of comes to life and reconfigures itself, and before they know it, they're attacked by the wall. Of course, it's a comedy show, very clever.
Neat.
So when you said like labyrinth in the middle of the room, I thought that's the Wall Buddy episode of Regular. Bill Salyers, so please. Roger Craig Smith is smiling someplace.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Yeah, So yeah, Dave Made a Maze. That's a definitely a recommendation.
So where can we find that?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I didn't make the movie. All right, I don't know. It's probably on Amazon Prime. I imagine it might be on YouTube. For pay, not necessarily for free. Although it could be free with ads. It's hard to say. Eventually, I'm just gonna buy it.
I will find it. All these movies tend to kind of surface. A lot of them are surfacing on YouTube, actually. I mean, Lost Boys right now is free on YouTube.
Yeah, Dave Made a Maze.
That's where I watch it.
It's free with ads on Amazon Prime right now, but it might be on other services. It might be on Hulu. But it's...
if you guys want to do something fun someday, we got to mic up my wife and do an audio commentary on a horror movie.
Oh, that'd be great.
She brings an urban perspective that's just that one.
Did you have
absolutely
one in mind, or...
Anyone. I mean, Halloween is the one we just did where, she does it anyway, whether she's on the mic or not, but she was just like, holy shit, this woman just dropped a knife again. It's just so funny because, to see how people would have reacted, It's interesting, though. You know what I like about that movie, too, now that I think about it, is the absence of technology, right? There's no cell phones or anything like that.
Yes.
They're running around, and she has to go door to door to get help.
Oh, yeah.
And no one's answering the doors.
Uh-huh. And the phone's off the hook on one of the things. I mean, that used to be a big deal. If you didn't want to be called, you'd take your phone off the hook.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, that was a big deal. I remember when call waiting was considered miraculous as a kid. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, now you can cut in on a phone call instead of getting a busy signal. But, it's interesting because, like I said, the timeline on the movie's way off. They carved that pumpkin way too late. Like, her whole babysitting agenda and schedule, it needs adjustment. Like, clearly she didn't grow up in a household that loved Halloween. It's like, come on, Laura, you're carving this thing at midnight. They're already through watching The Thing from another world.
Yeah, you're right.
And the trick-or-treaters are out in the middle of the afternoon, which I guess is okay. It adds a little, holiday ambiance.
But I mean, you're right. She did. She waited way too friggin' late to carve that pumpkin, and it's.
I barely remember the pumpkin.
Oh, I do.
It's funny. It's funny because Nick Castle does not do it. He does a great job as the Shade. Really moves really well, but he does not do a great job in killing them. And you can only guess that he was uncomfortable choking women as an actor. Because you look at his hand and it's very loose in the car. It's very loose when he's trying to kill her with the phone. It's like, You can almost see them wanting to say in between takes, like, you got to do a better job, Nick. I mean, I don't for a second buy into this. The victim totally sells the death scene, always.
Oh, yeah.
But in this particular case, the victim's working extra.
That's pretty funny. It's like
He probably does. He probably does feel uncomfortable, like, running around choking women. He's like, yeah, it's not really my thing, but I need
Understandable. I mean, it still works. I don't very many. I've only seen the movie hundreds of times, like every Halloween. It's like a religion, so it doesn't cut into my enjoyment of the beast. But having watched it so much, you start to notice these. I'm going to try to go to the cemetery tomorrow too, where they shot some of the cemetery. And when NBC bought the movie, they had to shoot extra footage, and that's why there's those added scenes. And some people think those were original outtakes, but they were actually shot later for the NBC cut. And as Carpenter said, he hoed out for the money. It was a great price from NBC, so they shot 2 additional scenes, which is Loomis explaining to like the board of doctors how dangerous Michael Myers is. You need that scene, right? Like nobody's got any tabs on this maniac in the system, right? It's like, why would you need to tell us how dangerous this guy is? We've had him in custody for like 2 decades. We know this guy's But anyway, there's that scene where he's trying to explain how dangerous Michael Myers is.
Well, it's for our benefit, of course.
Yes, it is, right? Because we need to know, right? And it's funny because I love seeing the wrench in the palm of the hand when it breaks the window. And the thing I keep thinking when I see that scene is, I can't believe they actually broke that window next to that actress's head. That seems really dangerous at the time. And there's probably no safety on this set.
Well, it's crazy because you do mention that, but if you look at and this is a completely different movie, of course. If you look at The Shining, right? Stanley Kubrick, right? Yeah,
Kubrick.
Thank you, Tyson. He really went out of his way to what was the actress's name who played Wendy?
Shelley Duvall.
Yes, he went out of his way to wreck her nerves in between takes so that she was nice and scared. So he brought down a hell upon this woman. And how she didn't lose her marbles is beyond me. So it's, that has to be part of like health and safety, right? Like shooting a movie or something like that.
In theory, you would think. I mean, here's the thing. I know a lot about The Shining because Leon Vitali, who was Kubrick's longtime assistant, and he cast the little boy in that. We went to the Kubrick Museum with him and he broke down everything for us, not only on the tour, but over drinks. And, you have brunch with the guy and he just tells Kubrick story after Kubrick story, and it's fantastic. I'm not a huge Kubrick fan, but I have a lot of respect. When it comes to The Shining, first thing he always says is everyone loved Jack Nicholson, which is easy to see. Anyone I know who worked with Jack Nicholson when he did Batman, love him. With other actors, they can be more challenging. And one of the things I noticed is that Kubrick is totally demanding. He's going to want a certain performance. He's going to want it 100 times before. Like, there's that famous story from that movie where Nicholson, who was a reserve firefighter, takes the axe and cuts the door down, right? And the story is, okay, take 1, let's do it again. Take 10, let's do it again. 2 days later, they're okay. Take 80, do it again. Take 120, do it again. And Nicholson finally turns to Kubrick and says, Stanley, I'm with you 100%. But I usually peak around the 80th or 90th take, right? So what that tells you, though, is that Nicholson is wired a certain way for respect to directors, if he respects them, and Kubrick he clearly did respect, and trying to get the best performance and being a pro. There's no sense of pro to that. With Duvall, I see a little bit of what you're saying, Hunter, which is Kubrick writing her, but I also see her doing things that make directors typically crazy on the set, which is, look, my hair is falling out and it's coming out in clumps, and there's like 2 or 3 hairs, and Kubrick's like, look, I don't have time for this. I've got a snowstorm. I got a cadaver with an axe in its body. I feel like that it's kind of like it is Kubrick, but it's also like certain triggers that Duvall, who actually, by the way, is a pretty sharp producer herself and went through a pretty good thing doing fairy tale theater for kids in the 80s and 90s. Very sharp lady and a great performer. She was great as olive oil. But I just think what you're witnessing is kind of a clash of personalities in a way where they just trigger each other to make what should normally be like a friction at 20%, friction at 80%. Does that make any sense? I'm not excusing Kubrick. And I have huge respect for Duvall, but it seems like I see her saying things in the behind the scenes footage where I'm like, that would make sense. If somebody said that to me in the middle of trying to figure out, and Kubrick's rewriting everything at the time, so his mind is working in a certain way where he can only probably adjust to a certain key thing or two that he needs to focus on. And if it's one of those dramatic sort of actors things that actors do, you snap. And the one thing you don't get is you didn't get any of that from Nicholson. I mean, there's that. Have you seen the footage that Vivian Kubrick shot, Stanley's daughter, on the film? It's great.
It's great. In one of the editions of The Shining that also has the original aspect ratio in 4x.
Dude, it's fantastic. So you know what I'm talking about. It's some of the best footage I've ever seen of any movie shot because it's so candid. Yeah, and he goes to like the assist, and you see Kubrick like typing new scenes, like and Nicholson says sometimes we get new scenes, and I don't even look at the script anymore. I'll get a new scene in the morning, and that scene will change by lunch, and I'll get a third version of it before we're called for dinner, and I just do what's handed to me the best of my ability. So that tells you something about the set and the environment they were working in, and I'll remind me to tell you my Stephen King Shining story in a minute, but there's a moment where Stanley's assistant runs upstairs. Listen, if you got time tonight, here's some new pages for tomorrow. And Nicholson's response is, that's so wonderful, Alice. Thank you. Thank you so much. I was just wondering what I was going to do between 2 and 4 in the morning. It's like the whole tired actor, like just this. And he's like winking at the camera when he does it because he's a pro. And that's the thing I saw. And that's why that guy gets the best deal, best contract, the most respect is because that guy is 100% bent on delivering. And I mean, I can tell you, I know people that worked with him on dozens of movies. And I cannot find anyone that has had anything negative to say. In fact, Rob Reiner says on A Few Good Men, they outran his schedule. He was supposed to be done. And he said, and Rob Reiner said to Jack, damn, I wish I had you for one more day. There's just one shot I want. And Jack Nicholson goes, just tell me when you need me. He showed up the following day for free. The real world listening to this would probably think, what's the big deal? But I can tell you that's a huge deal when an actor of that caliber shows up for free to get the shot the director should have already had in the bag while the actor is scheduled. And that kind of tells you something. But I asked Leon, why do you think Stephen King has been since the movie came out, so rebellious towards it, right? Because we all know the history. Do we? Do we know the history?
Yep. He didn't like it.
Some bit.
He didn't like it.
Yeah.
Leon seems to think that's because, and I think there's some truth to this, because Kubrick barred him from the set until like a last day at the end when they set up kind of a fake set for Stephen King to visit. And Kubrick wasn't even there. They set up like a nonsense setup, like shots and cameras and stuff. And I think King is smart enough and certainly knew enough to know that he was being disrespected. Like he's not even being shown the real deal. Like, why have I been shut out? I show up and these guys are pulling one over on me, and they're pulling one over on me, and they know they're pulling one over on, and I know they know, and you know, and I know, he knows, and he knows. And it's like, and Leon seems to think that might have something to do with, because King endorses movies on his product that are pure shit. They're terrible. And that's a pretty strong movie, I think. I mean, I don't love it, but I think it's executed in a way that is very professional. Well, you can't help but admire it.
Put it this way. I'm a huge Stephen King fan, right? I loved the Shining book itself. I thought that was an excellent read. In fact, I probably should reread it at some point. But as far as like I've seen the Stephen King's remake of The Shining. That was fantastic. Loved it. And I've also grew up with Jack Nicholson's version of The Shining. That was the only movie that scared the ever-loving scared the ever-loving shit out of me as a child. Particularly when he walks into that room and he starts making out with the naked lady, and it turns into like a dead, rotting corpse, and she starts coming at him with, her hands extended, laughing. I mean, scared me so bad that the only way I was able to overcome it was I had to be in the house by myself, and I was, with all the lights off, and I made myself sit there and watch it and rewatch it and rewatch it until finally it just became funny to me at that point. But that was the only thing that ever scared the crap out of me, was that scene. I mean, that movie, I have to give it props because it's such a classic movie. I mean, the shots, the jump scares,
the music,
it's fabulous.
Great performance by that actress too, by the way. She doesn't get enough credit because she sells that.
Yeah, she does. I mean, he just comes like walking in, here he is, and he sees like this gorgeous naked lady in the bathtub who starts making out with him, and he's all about it, right? And then all of a sudden, he just like opens his eyes. He's like, oh, he's making that noise, he's backing up, and she's just like, oh my god!
You can stay in that room. You can go to the actual hotel and stay in the room, and you can even go in the what is it, the maze? But it's only about waist high. It's hilarious. What is it, the hedge maze? It's like basically 4.5 feet high or something. It's pretty fun. But you can go. Yeah, you can go experience it. That's the trick now with a lot of these movies. They recognize that they can turn these into sort of miniatures and bars like Shawshank. They all got the gift shop, and you can see, the prison set and all these other things. And anyway, so it's like, you can go to the hotel and it's open for business, and it's not as scary as the movie makes you feel it should be. And you hang out.
I mean, Ferndale still gets its fair amount of tourism for, having been in Salem's Lot and Outbreak and the Majestic and various other things. Mostly those, because that's the most visually recognizable stuff.
Which Salem Lot was it? Was it the
Toby Hooper?
The Toby Hoopers? Yeah. Toby Hooper was my buddy. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, yeah. My condolences.
Yeah. Loved my kid. He thought she was the most magnificent kid when she was like 2 or 3 years old. We went to the wrap party at Mortuary movie he did, and my kid's first experience at a wrap party. She's dancing around, and he's just like this kid is amazing. This kid is amazing. Like just like totally fully like embrace this little kid at this like monster rap party with like zombies walking around and stuff. Anyway, that's enough about Toby Hooper, but classic, an underappreciated guy that gets a lot of shit excuse my language. I'm sorry, I forget. This is not combat radio where anything goes language wise.
It's all right.
But he gets a rash of abuse times, but I think he also deserves a lot of credit.
I actually I thought Life Force was a pretty interesting film.
It's better than I remembered it. I saw it recently, and it was one of those trailers as a kid when you see it at like 5 and 6, and you're like, oh man, I don't know if I can make it through that movie. That movie looks intense. And then you see it and you go, it's pretty impressive. Nick Melee was one of the effects guys on that. He's a combat radio veteran, and he told us some behind the scenes stories about it. Some of the other guys that were on it did too. That movie was supposed to be huge, and it was a bitter disappointment to him. And there's the whole Poltergeist story. I did a commentary on a Poltergeist trailer about how much Toby Hooper directed versus Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, there was a bit of controversy whether or not. You could probably tell it better.
Well, no, I mean the controversy is, in a nutshell, who directed it. Right, that's the argument. But here's the thing that's interesting, right? I remember sitting at the Rainbow with Gunnar Hansen, who was the original Leather, good friend. He was the backup Santa. Fun fact that nobody knows. Yes, rest in peace. Loved him. When I told my daughter he passed away, that's the first time I saw her in shell shock, start crying.
Wow.
He was such a generous guy. Everyone loved him. Very smart. He was a writer, lived in Maine, very cerebral. Got in constant arguments about people who would come up to him at conventions and tell him they knew the real Leatherface or related to the Leatherface, or Leatherface killed their family. And he would get in arguments saying, Leatherface is not real. Get over it. And people would say, no, he absolutely is. And he's in this prison. And he'd be like, no, he isn't.
No, he's not.
And I saw him a couple of times get in these arguments of like Days of the Dead and stuff. But anyway, so I'm at dinner with him one night. He goes, Toby Hooper only directed one scene of Poltergeist. And it's the scene where the chairs end up on the table in the kitchen. And the haunting is just starting.
Great shot.
Stop right there. Another friend of mine who I love dearly, he's also passed away, is in Poltergeist as one of the construction dudes putting the pool in. And that's Sonny Landon, who went on to play Billy the Indian and Predator.
Oh, yeah, he's in that. That's right.
Yeah, he is in it. And I loved him. He's the reason we have combat radio. I don't think a lot of people know that, but he's the reason we have the show. Anyway, so Gunnar says that to me. Now, I'll tell you what I think of the whole conspiracy. I know I'm boring the shit out of your audience, but Gunnar says
our audience loves this type of stuff.
No, they've gone to bed a long time ago. When they heard I was your guest, they tuned out. But for the three of us here, Gunnar says that's the only scene he directed. Now, what's interesting about that is that's the only scene I ever saw Toby Hooper publicly talk about. However, I look at the whole movie, and I know Oliver Robbins has said differently. Oliver Robbins has said he was only directed by Toby Hooper. I look at that movie, and that movie definitely has some Toby Hooperism in it. There's no doubt. And I think it has Steven Spielberg's fingerprints all over it because he was the producer, and he's a hands-on guy. So He got in the trenches and probably said, no, block it like this, set this up. So in a nutshell, Gunnar Hansen's argument was that Tobe Hooper was a shut-in. Tobe Hooper didn't really direct too much of it. And this is not, we're not bashing anyone. This is the public record of the production.
No.
And when, Tobe Hooper and Gunnar Hansen, who have the Texas Chainsaw history together, were not speaking together. They were not speaking to each other at this time. And my understanding is they both passed away without ever kind of coming together.
Reconciling.
If that happened, I didn't know about it, and I knew them both pretty well. So Gunnar said, he directed one scene, but I think he directed actually much more than that, kind of a wrap. And I think Spielberg got in the trenches on it and did whatever he could do. But that's the argument. That who directed it? The answer is they both did, basically, but it was probably more Hooper than people want to give credit for.
Now, my thing about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because it's in my head now, because we're talking about it, and of course, I think this might be pure speculation, something I read off the internet years ago, whatever the hell it is. Obviously, Leatherface himself, Texas family, killing people, eating people, wasn't real. If it was actually based on anything, if it was actually based on any truth, would probably be more close to Ed Gein, because Ed Gein would eat people. He would wear the skin of women that he skinned from cemeteries and things like that. So it basically loosed off. It's off that. It's that's what I'd heard anyway. But as far as like Leatherface being like a real person, no, not at all.
Well, I've heard that too. But Gunnar always said that Ed Gein kind of came into the conversation when they were on the production because of, like, in the way what the stories of him may have inspired set design and the layout of the house. But I'll tell you something else too about that. And Gunnar wrote a very good book that I have. I can probably get you a copy.
I would like to read that.
He broke down the entire production day for day. And, he was alienated on the set because he only had one set of wardrobe. It got bad quick. So he was like put off the pasture when they took a break, But he said, the reason people think it's real is because John Larroquette, Night Court fame, does that great narration in the beginning that's so convincingly real. And the rumor was that he did it for like story. And
that's funny.
John Larroquette did a great job. And everyone in that movie is fantastic. I met Daniel Pearl when I was at Warner. We brought him in to see about him shooting a movie we were getting ready to do called Respect the Dead. He had just done Pathfinder, the Viking movie there, fight movie. And I brought him in, and all we kept talking about was that shot in Texas Chainsaw Massacre under the swing set and how he did it and how they told him they weren't going to do it. They didn't have time to do it. It couldn't be accomplished. And they got that shot. And it's so funny how sometimes you meet someone for a job and it just kind of circulates to this one little bit of discussion. Anyway, sorry to bore.
No, it really is. This kind of stuff is always fascinating to me. So
now I did see, not to cut you off, Tyson. I remember, and it could be BS, but I remember back in, I want to say late 80s, early 90s, there was a documentary or something I seen on TV that had something to do with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, with an actual real life person. But I mean, again, those documentaries, like how, I don't know if it was true, not true, whatever, just, trying to grab some attention on TV. I don't know, but I do remember seeing something about it, but,
Well, when I asked Toby about it, and I did, his response was, God, no. And when I said, is it based on God, no?
No, it's definitely not.
I mean, it's probably based on something now because society's broken like that. But or you could say something is based on the movie. Here's the thing: like that movie was so disturbing. And the house, actually, for a bit of a time, was a barbecue joint in Texas before it closed down, and they moved it. They moved the house. It's interesting because like the internet has a lot of really interesting guys doing like location videos and stuff, and I respect it. And it's very entertaining. But I would say a significant part of it is sometimes wrong because we always kind of look at the production notes or talk directly to the directors, the actors on it, and it's like and I saw a location video on that got some of those facts wrong. The house was actually moved. And it was
what's actually pretty funny in today's modern world with technology being the way it is. It's very hard to be isolated. I'm frozen.
No, I am, but I can still hear you guys. Don't worry. No, I just unfroze. Okay, that was weird.
Okay.
It happens.
With today's technology and modern civilization, it's very hard to be isolated in this country, no matter where you live, whether you live in the desert, out in the middle of the woods, and it's also very hard to be a serial killer, and with today's forensics and technology. So it's to say that there's I mean, it would be I don't want to say it's cool that if there's somebody mimicking Leatherface out there somewhere, but if there was I guess if but it wouldn't be cool really, but he wouldn't be able to pull that off for very long is what I'm trying to say. I mean, here you had a bunch of wackos,
we would hope,
living out in East Texas somewhere, Bumble there, and they were dicing people up and eating people and things like that. So I mean, and to be fair about this, who was the dude that was at the gas station talking to the teenagers trying to find their uncle's house or whatever it was, their grandfather's house? He did warn them. He said, "Do not go there. You don't want to go there. It's the place."
Wait, what movie is this now?
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, when they're at the gas station filling up, and the old man's at the gas station.
Right.
And he's like, "You don't want to go there. It's dirty. You got the kid with the wheelchair. Like, just gas up, take my barbecue, and drive on." The problem with these horror movies is, and I've seen this in multiple horror movies, is when you roll up in the middle of nowhere to a gas station with an old man who says, "Don't go somewhere," you should probably take his advice and not go to the place you're wanting to go to. I mean,
that's part of being a dumb kid, right?
Right.
You don't listen to
but
adults.
it was in Demon Wind. It was in Texas. It was in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It was in what was the other movie I was thinking of?
It's a trope.
Right. It was in Wrong Turn.
I have to tell you, this is a good time for me to admit it. I don't actually love horror movies. I just happen to know about certain ones where we were affiliated with cast or crew. It's like you're mentioning movies. I like Demon Wind. Like that almost sounds like an old Kurosawa samurai movie.
Or metal.
Demon Wind was an 80s movies. A movie in the 80s that basically was all kinds of cheesiness. I mean, it was, or it might have been early 90s, but it was still.
That's every movie. That was every movie. 80s,
but yes and no. But this took it to the next level. I mean, this is almost on the same level as Dune. And I'm sorry.
Well, why do you say it's on the next level of Dune? Are you?
It's on the same level. No. As a kid, I loved Dune. Loved it.
We're talking David Lynch's Dune, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The original movie with Sir Patrick Stewart.
Uh-huh.
So when I rewatched it as an adult a few years back, it was just. I'm sorry, but here you have you're in a distant galaxy on whole other planets, and they're in a galactic war, and here comes Sir Patrick Stewart running out with a dog in his hands, and you have a cat, and it's just not saying
the Duke has a dog. You're right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Dune is one of the legendary mishaps in Hollywood. That was a massive movie, and those guys were all signed to a 3-picture deal because that was going to be, Universal Star Wars. I'll tell you, if you want to know anything about Dune, the guy to talk to is producer Ed Naha. He's on my Facebook. He's easy to find. He was tasked by Universal to go down to the production and write the behind-the-scenes production book on it during production. He's got all the dirt on Dune. We've talked to him for hours sometimes about Dune. Dune's one of the great mystifying movies of all time. It had so much promise, and it's such a train wreck of a movie.
Oh, it is. It had.
And how many characters? How many characters have an inner monologue on that movie? 14, 50? Do you need a bunch of characters going?
Right.
Shut up. Let the audience figure it out.
Exactly. I mean, don't get me wrong. It had a very strong cast with very strong actors.
Very expensive cast.
And a very expensive cast. But I mean, watching it as an adult in my late 30s, I just couldn't get around it. Like I tried. I watched maybe 20 minutes of it, and I'm like, yeah, this is not what I remember as a child. Click. I turned it off. I couldn't do it. It was
the movie does a lot of things right, but where it falls short is in the effects. That's where the budget seemed to run out. The costumes, the production design, brilliant. The cast is brilliant. It's actually mapped out in a very effective way if you compare it to the book. I think the movie starts at a perfect point for a movie to start. The book starts with the Reverend Mother coming to test Paul. The movie starts with the Navigator showing up to talk to the Emperor. Now, I don't think you need the Emperor's daughter giving you a bunch of backstory. I think you just set the scene and let the audience figure it out that there's an Emperor and a galactic command system. So that was an interesting place to do it. But if you look at the creature, the Navigator, created by Ribaldi, who did E.T., it's not convincing. So the movie starts to lose you right away with the practical effects and the special effects. It just doesn't really have the firepower you want for a space epic. And if you patch it up to movies at the time, we just saw Return of the Jedi, where those things were done real well. And so you got a movie that it kind of feels like an Italian sort of cardboard cutout version of sort of space monsters and stuff. It's going to really run shallow real quick. Now, I'll tell you a fun story. Toto came through our studio, and, they were tasked with doing the soundtrack with Brian Eno on that. Dave Lynch pitched it to him by inviting him down to Bob's Big Boy on Riverside Drive, which, if you know Warner Brothers Studios, it's basically right across the street. It's sort of an unofficial sort of command production office for everyone at Warner Brothers. When they want to get away, they go to Bob's Big Boy, and I've never understood it because the place is semi-terrible. But he invites Toto down for a meeting there, and I asked Bobby Kimball, tell us about the meeting with David Lynch to do Dune. That was such a great call, and Bobby Kimball was, well, I didn't want to talk about that too much on the air because that's when the band was trying to fire me. So we'd have the meeting with David Lynch, and they were trying to fire me at the same meeting, and it's just kind of hilarious that these big production things happen. Like, I'll meet you for burgers at Bob's Big Boy, and we'll get this whole soundtrack deal sorted out. But Lynch is a very likable guy and a very interesting guy to listen to. Just for whatever reason, his movies have never struck a chord with me. Like I argue with director Steve Surjik, one of our regulars who directs The Witcher and Umbrella Academy. He loves Lynch, and he loves Eraserhead. Thinks Eraserhead is a masterpiece. And I'm sorry, if you love Eraserhead, that is your privilege. If everyone in Lynch Nation, keep loving it, keep watching it, worship it. That is the most confusing, fucking melodramatic piece of crap I've ever seen in my life, probably off the top of my head. I cannot get my head around that movie. But he loves it. And, it's so funny. So there's some people that really, really respond to Lynch, and that's what movies are about. I love that they have that reaction. Me, I'm just one of these guys who goes, I don't get it. And that's probably what they hate about me, but there you go.
So it's a nightmare.
Well, it's kind of like...
But, yeah, go ahead.
You ever watched... Again, because it's on my mind. You ever watched the 80s version of Flash Gordon?
For me? Or?
Yeah, both you guys.
Never.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll tell you about Lunch with Dan Jones.
I love this movie.
Why?
I just loved it as a child growing up. I loved it. I thought it was great. A few months back, it popped into my head. I wanted to watch it again, so I bought it off Prime, right?
Yeah.
And the beginning is where the Emperor of sorts in a distant galaxy is talking to his metal-faced
Ming the Merciless.
Yes, Ming the Merciless. He's talking to his metal-faced do all my shit, boy. And he's like,
brilliant performance by that actor too, but both actors, by the way.
And he's like, I'm bored. What plaything can you offer me today? And he goes, I have this planet, Your Majesty. The inhabitants call it the planet Earth. And so when you look at Ming the Merciless's toys of destruction, like his things, it says earthquake, it says floods and everything else. Now, why would you have it labeled earthquake if you never heard of the planet before, or that the fact that it's called Earth?
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But,
wow.
I mean, it is cheesy beyond all hell, but I love the movie. So much, in fact, that I can forgive its cheesiness because I know it's cheesy. Right off the bat, the difference between that and Dune is that Dune was trying to be, again, what Ethan said was like an Italian version of a Star Wars movie. And Flash Gordon, right off the bat, like, hey, we're friggin' cheesy, deal with it. And I can appreciate that.
Let me clarify. I didn't mean the movie was an Italian. I just thought, the effects team was Italian. They didn't even speak English, and it kind of felt like something out of sort of European theater. Not bad, but not very effective either, I would have to say. And I think a lot of that was due to budget time. If you think that the worm effects work in Dune, I don't think they do, and I think they should have shifted. But that's my production call if I was to make it, because if a practical effect doesn't work, don't force it. If your eye can detect it's not real, don't put it in the audience. It takes it right out of it. But I wasn't coming down on Italians. Congratulations.
I'm Italian, but
so am I. But you make it sound like I was trying to
no,
turn
not
it
at
into
all.
a Stromboli shooting gallery, and I'm not.
Not at all, because first of all, when it comes to Italians making movies, they either go in or they don't. They so it's like a hit or miss. So like for example, when they did Demons 1 and 2, for example, they absolutely killed it. They killed it. Those two movies were fantastic. But now take like for example,
Rat's Night of Terror, not so much.
Not so much, right? Now take
We're losing
like, for example,
Tyson. That's your cue, Hunter. We're losing Tyson.
We're losing Tyson. So now take like for example, years ago, a buddy of mine told me about this movie called Blood for Dracula or something like that, where Dracula has to go to Italy to find virgins.
Of
course.
And
Christopher Lee film.
it wasn't Christopher Lee.
No,
it was
Blood for
no.
Dracula.
It sounds like a Christopher movie.
It was an Italian. It was an Italian vampire movie or an Italian adaptation of Dracula. And the thing about it is, Dracula leaves Transylvania because he has to find blood to save his sister. So he goes to Italy and he takes refuge in a mansion. First of all, these aristocrats are basically broke. They only have one servant left. And now here's where the cheesiness comes in. Yes, it isn't dubbed in English. They're all speaking English. But here's my problem. You have this guy, this Dracula going to Italy, right? Why do you have an Italian? Now, again, I am Italian, so I can talk trash about this. Why do you have a guy who works there on the estate who sounds like he's from Brooklyn? Because that's exactly. And it was a porn. It was like a soft porn.
You're talking
very
about
critical.
Dude,
you're very critical.
You're talking about Andy Warhol's Dracula. That's what that's what you're talking about. Yes, you're talking Udo Kier, Joe D'Alessandro. He's basically effing the ladies in the thing. He's like you whore, and like pushes her face. Yes, that's Andy Warhol's Dracula. It's directed by Paul Morrissey.
Oh,
I haven't seen it.
All right, whatever.
It's terrible.
Okay. Thank you for correcting me, Tyson. But you're
Udo
right.
Kier's
It is terrible because
Udo Kier's always good.
Here's what pissed me off though is the fact that here Dracula is, first of all, Dracula turned in, Dracula's supposed to be the first vampire, like the ultimate darkness, and he turned out to be a pansy in this movie. But not only that, he goes to Italy with Italians, not American Italians, and you have one guy who works on the estate and he sounds like he's from Brooklyn. We don't need that. We don't care if he's from get him out of here.
Getting back to Flash Gordon briefly, that whole movie feels like it was designed by Jarodowski. Also,
Jarodowski was like, did you ever see the documentary about he was going to make Dune originally? And they have.
Yeah, I did. It's fascinating to see. I don't know how much of it is like how he thought production was proceeding, if production really was proceeding in that sense. But it is an interesting documentary to look at, and. I've never asked Mick Jagger if he was really signed on in production, but he is a visionary of sorts, and it is an interesting movie. Sam Jones told me over lunch that the director was replaced on that 2 weeks before they started shooting, and that was what he thought the problem was. And when I met Sam, Flash Gordon wasn't even on his acting. I asked him about it. He goes, "Oh, it's so old." Well, what it really was he was not getting along with this and their Rafaela and their crew at the time. That was supposed to be a 3-picture deal too. Did you know that?
No.
And some say he's dubbed in it. I don't know that he is or he isn't. I haven't watched it in years, but some people say he's dubbed. Speaking of rock and roll soundtracks, the Queen.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, let me tell you. Let me tell you something. Oh, you know what? I remember why. I wanted to watch Flash Gordon. So if you ever watched the Flash the TV show.
No.
Okay.
On the CW?
Yes.
No.
There is an awesome scene where the Flash has to run into a black hole, right? So he's running into a black hole.
Of course he does.
And as he's running into a black hole, back in Star Labs where his people are, they played the Flash Gordon's theme song while he was doing it. Oh. And it was so badass that I had to just watch Flash Gordon again. So, but the thing about it is, yes, the difference between, again, with Flash Gordon, you already know that there's going to be an epic level of cheesiness that is just, it's fun to watch. It's kind of like Lost Boys. Lost Boys, they tell you right off the bat, it's cheesy. We get it, but it's a fun time.
Do they tell you that, Lost Boys?
Yes. There was an interview with the Coreys who that's one of the reasons why the blood coming out of the vampire wasn't red. It was whatever it was because it was supposed to be slimy, gooey. It's supposed to be like a fun time. So
okay, I misinterpreted that because I did not interpret Lost Boys that it was supposed to be cheesy when I saw it. I mean, I guess this is all news to me. I actually think they went about Flash Gordon in a completely legitimate way. I just think it didn't age very well. I don't think they thought we were making it cheesy. I think they were thinking, they're like, this is going to be awesome. This is a great battle. Look at these dudes with wings.
Well, back in the day, it was very epic. I mean, back when I was watching it in the 80s as a child, I'm like, oh my God, this is like the best thing I've ever seen in my life. But as an adult, yes, it is very much cheesy, but I still love it anyway.
I haven't seen it yet.
Like I said, I bought it off Prime and it's in my queue and it's a great watch. Cheesy,
Let's table this. We should table this until Tyson has had a chance to see it. So it's the kind of movie that he would probably really love to break
now.
down.
Ethan, the Antisocial Show has been in existence now for about 5 years.
Almost October, yeah.
Yes. And in all this time, I've been trying to get him.
It took me 5 years to get on this show. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves.
You were on last year.
Oh, I get my annual appearance. Thank you.
But for this whole time, I've been trying to get him to watch Tusk by Kevin Smith, and he hasn't done it either. He hasn't done it yet. 5 years. Tusk.
It took me 10 years to see The Room. I finally did. Thought it was great.
That's a hard movie to watch too, in my opinion. So I can't say I love that movie. I mean, you know what? I've gotten very specific with my entertainment, and it's gotten very soft in my old age. Like I have to. Every time I try to access any sort of internet, it's all a barrage of bad news and hate and conspiracies. And I just when I turn on my TV, I really want something that's simple and that kind of almost harkens back to a more fun-loving, innocent time. And just to put a footnote on this, I apparently missed the memo that Lost Boys was done in a sort of a cheesy way. I now have to rewatch it after having this conversation and seeing if that holds up. I do remember it had a great soundtrack.
Oh, excellent soundtrack, excellent storyline. I mean, think about this. So you have a bunch of guys, a bunch of teenagers, dressed awesomely for the 80s. They're riding around on bikes. They live forever. They can fly. They suck people's blood, things like that, right? And this whole time, you think Keith Sutherland is the head vampire. But no, he wasn't. As it turns out that, spoiler alert.
You didn't alert anyone that they hadn't seen Lost Boys. You were going to detrack it.
Yeah,
so,
how dare you
defang it.
This movie came out in 1987 or whatever. Good Lord.
All right. So for anyone out there that hasn't watched this movie, mute this part because I'm going to give away.
It's too late. What are you talking about?
I haven't given away who the head vampire was.
No, but all right, but it's all right.
But the head vampire turns out to be, some middle-aged dude who owns a video store.
Well, that's the classic bait and switch, and it's done really well, right? Because it's like there's also another added story to that, and I can't remember what it is, but there's an actress on it, Minter, who came through my office at Warner Brothers and told me she's credited at the beginning of the movie, but not seen too much. She was in the movie school, and she said something about she was supposed to be a vampire, and there was another whole section that wasn't shot or edited out. I don't know, but I actually like Ed Harriman as an actor, and I think he's kind of good because he's disarming. You think school teacher, you think substitute math teacher, you don't think head of a vampire.
Right? No, he very much is disarming because you think he's just like this guy who just owns a video store, and he's just
rest in peace.
Whatever, right? And he turns out to be
rest in peace. Yeah.
Right. Turns out to be an asshole.
Yeah, sure.
Well, there's a pretty fun scene, where he gets invited to the house and they try to test him over dinner. It's pretty classic. But
that is actually
anybody,
I like that scene.
anybody who's ever paid attention to the rules of vampirism, of course, aside from Twilight, when he shows up and talks to Michael for the first time, he goes, you must be Michael. And he goes, and you must be Max. Well, you are the man of the house, and I'm not coming in until you invite me. You're invited. Yeah, that was the dead giveaway.
Well,
right?
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't think I caught that the first time when I saw the movie as like being a like a guy in junior high. But You're right. It's a dead giveaway now. I don't understand why that rule holds up. Like, why would a vampire need an invitation to cross the threshold of someone's front door? They violate everything.
It's a traditionally observed superstition.
Really?
Yeah.
That's one of those things that it's like, it works, I guess, because we're talking mythical
Why don't
elements
they like
to
garlic?
begin with.
I mean, you know.
Yeah, real. Yeah. Why don't
Garlic doesn't work, boys.
It doesn't.
Try
have a-
holy water, death breath.
There's got to be a band out there that's inspired by the Lost Boys that covers the soundtrack. There's got to be by now
100%.
somebody.
100%.
Yeah, sure. And they dress like it, and they perform like it, and they do a bunch of.
They do the Echo
Yeah,
and
it's
the Bunny
called
Men
Queen
cover
of-
stuff.
Called Queen of the Damned.
The damn.
Yeah, I
was a war.
go ahead.
No, you first, Tyson.
I was just going to say about The Last Boys, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I saw that movie, I think I was probably, I think it was 87, so I was probably about 13 or 14 when it came out on video, and I was, I had heard about it, people liked it, and when I watched it, I was never under the impression it was anything more than just cool.
No, it is cool.
'cause
Don't get me wrong.
But I mean,
It's
like,
cool.
I didn't think of it going, oh, this is poking fun at anything particular. I think it was just trying to do a genre film from a different angle, and in a different setting that happened to be sort of this weird kind of like rock and roll, almost punk aesthetic with, teenage culture in this very specific area of the world. Whatever, and that's all it's felt like, was just kind of like a cool sort of, with people to root for, and young people in it, and young people
If you
against
think-
evil, like Goonies with vampires.
If you think
Right,
about it,
right.
why those vampires are if you think, yes, it's kind of a horror comedy. But if
Definitely
you
got
think
funny
about
moments, yeah.
if you think about why those vampires are even more deadlier than your typical vampire, because if you think about it,
More deadlier.
yes, I'll tell you
Are
why.
they though? Are
Yes, I'll tell you why. Because first of all, they're not pale in the sense, like, for example, like, your typical vampire's pale.
Mhm.
They can't eat solid food. They can only drink blood, things like that. These vampires could eat human food. They weren't pale. They can actually go eat human food. So, like, they can put up a front
Wow.
for a real long
I
time.
see what you're saying, yeah.
Hunter, I've got to give you credit. You are really reading the bones on this. It's amazing how much sort of methodical thought. This is like a crime scene for vampire. Man. The way you're breaking this down, I haven't thought of any of this, like the inability to eat solid food. I mean, look, I just thought the movie had a certain aesthetic, which we know Joel Schumacher was big on aesthetics. All directors are,
Mhm.
and it was a fun movie. It wasn't really rocket science. I mean, I don't know. Like, I enjoy watching the movie, and I like the movie, and for reasons that I like it, I think it's a good movie. But I just don't know how plausible the whole thing is as far as vampire movies go. And that was my point earlier about, what it really. But who cares? Come on. Who cares? Who cares what we think?
I mean,
It's a
now,
fun movie. If you like it, you like it.
if you want
Fun.
to take it even further than that, there is another. This was a TV show back in the '90s where those vampires were even deadlier than the Lost Boy vampires, because this was called Kindred the Embraced, that was filmed in California, and those the lead actor died, and there was only one season of it. So after they wrapped season 1, he went back to England and he died in a motorcycle accident. But now these vampires, they actually had a heartbeat, right? As long if they fed, they had a heartbeat. They can actually go in the sun for one whole day, for 24 hours. If they had fed prior, they can eat human food, so they can actually pass as 100% human as long as they fed. So if they fed the night before, they have a heartbeat. They can eat human food. They can.
Do you
Mind
have a hard
fuck
time
you.
watching? Do you have a hard time watching The Lost Boys, Hunter, or do you like the movie? Yeah.
Oh, I love that movie.
Okay, so like the vampire logic, it doesn't really take you out of the film, right? You're still a part of it and still like it. So the movie kind of
100%.
accomplishes its task. Okay, good. I mean, it's interesting.
Yes.
Anyway,
Oh, trust me, I'm a huge fan of Lost
what do you
Boys.
think of Lost Boys? I'm asking my daughter right now. She just up. What do you think of Lost Boys?
Sean?
Tyson says hello.
Hello, Sean.
The sax man was a choice, she said. Of course. That's Capello. Come on, let's give the guy some slack. Hey, man, when was the last time you saw a saxman get so much out of his career? Talk about a guy that got a lot of mileage out of just playing the saxophone.
Just
I mean,
playing
come
the
on.
saxophone with an extremely low camera angle.
And with that
Right,
one scene, it was
right.
like I still believe.
Yeah. I've always wondered, I had this conversation with Michael Perry about Streets of Fire and Eddie and the Cruisers. I wonder what the band actually thinks about that, because like I said earlier, the majority of the people who grew up watching Lost Boys thinks Capello sings that song.
I thought
And
he did.
obviously he does not. And I asked Michael Perry, who ran into the guy who actually sings on the dark side for Eddie and the Cruisers, and they kind of got into it, and he was kind of sticky about it. He was like, hey, it's the guy that everyone thinks sings me, but it's me, and it's him trying to be me. And it was kind of a touchy subject. And I've always kind of wondered when I look at the Lost Boys, like, I wonder what the call. I mean, obviously they cashed the check, and the publishing rolls in on it. But I wonder, like, do you think they get kind of chippy that everyone thinks Tina Turner saxophonist sings that song? Anyway,
yeah, it's an interesting point.
So he didn't sing the song, but he played the sax, though, obviously, right?
That part I don't know. I mean, I have not heard the original version by The Call in a long time. There might be saxophone in it, but I don't think it credits. I don't think it gets them any sort of ASCAP privilege, if you know what I mean. But just an interesting kind of question, and it's probably too deep for a show like this in a sense, because it's putting your audience to bed. But I kind of wonder those things from a production standpoint.
Yeah, there's, lots of questions.
Well, Ethan, to put to answer your question logically about our audience, in fact, we think we know, or we could just, whatever, that there is a huge spike in, I'm going to say it again, Tyson, Columbus, Ohio. So for whatever reason, when we pay attention to what's, like different locations of people listening to the show, for some reason, there is a huge spike in Columbus, Ohio. So again,
it's
often.
Strange.
So I'm telling you right now, Columbus, I've asked you once, I've asked you twice. Reach out to us. Come on the show if you want. I will even go, and I told you this last time. I will give you some anti-social show T-shirt. I'll give you some merch. Come on the show, join us, because we're really interested in you now. At this point, we're watching. And paying attention, obviously. So you know where to find us. Come on the show, talk to us. I'll give you a T-shirt. It's on me.
That's nice. Very generous of you.
Yep. Okay. So, Ethan, it is right now. It is July. It is July. So it's the middle of July.
Right.
At some point, at the end of the year, usually in December, there's the Christmas event. Is that still happening? Does that happen every year and is continuing to happen this year? And if so, when?
Yeah,
what can you tell me about it?
It's the first Saturday in December. What Tyson is referring to is our annual Christmas event for social services and homeless children. It happened last year despite COVID, but we did it different. We didn't have an event where we bust in 400 or 500 children, Polar Express style, to us. We actually packaged the meals and put them to 8 or 10 different shelters from Watts, which is a war zone, regrettably, to North Hollywood. Delivered the meals, delivered the presents, and delivered clothes and things of that nature. So we did it last year. That was year 10. It will happen again this year on the 1st December, which I think is either the 4th or the 5th. But it's on the books, and you guys are we should set up some kind of remote where I can put up like a Zoom in the green room with all the different talent, and they can kind of jump on your show and tell you what's happening from our angle. But it's early. It's it's going around 7 a.m. Pacific time.
Okay. Well, it's an interesting idea. We'll have to nail out the details a little bit so I can make plans on my end to negotiate around my dad duties. So,
yeah, that's
going on
my young child dad duties, I should say. I have a 2.5-year-old right now, so.
What's going on with the Halloween charity this year?
Yeah. What's going on with that too? Anything? Albums?
Here's the thing. We last year, or actually, I'm sorry, 2019, we did something pretty epic. We had about 1,000 people turn out for a broadcast. Had everyone from Ian Buchanan to Roger Craig Smith, and it was really fun. Cast of Avengers, Star Wars, and it actually was better than we realized. It was a fundraiser for social services, and we had literally 1,000 people. And that opened up the possibility of why don't we do a few other broadcasts and do something? We do a Halloween album most years. Mm-hmm. You guys have contributed to it. Mm-hmm. And, we do it when we can get it together because we're actually, universal when we're based. We got a lot happening. But, so when we did this Christmas thing, we walked away going, man, we were all kind of shocked. Like, damn, that was actually pretty good. I mean, I mean, I remember sitting with Mark Amato, who would be a great guest for your show. He's a producer over at CBS now.
Oh.
The writer for Saturday Night Live. And I remember I asked him I rewrote the script for A Christmas Carol to make it more hilarious, and I did it while drunk.
Oh.
So I gave it to the actors. Our director was Keith Fairley, another guy you should have on your show, who directed Adventure Time and Rugrats, and he's really good at voice talent.
Oh, cool.
And I gave him the script, and we decided to make it interactive. So when the three ghosts visit, and the final ghost, which is the Grim Reaper, basically the ghost of Christmas Future, comes through, we had him come through the back of the dark auditorium of the club as the Grim Reaper, and it was Keith who played the part. He put the costume on and kind of seeps, like really kind of startled the audience and moved through it towards the stage. Mm-hmm. So I rewrote the script drunk, gave it to the actors, and they're about 4 minutes into it. And I come from the backstage after the show's launched, come around the front, and this is a big deal for us. There's like 1,000 people there. We never had a turnout like that. So I asked Mark Amato, I go, is this working? Is the audience getting this? Because you never know. And there's a line where Charlie Schlatter, who you may know, he was on the show Ferris Bueller's Day Off, done a lot of stuff. He's the voice of the Honey Nut Bee. He's in everything when you think about it.
18 again with George Burns.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. And he was also the Flash, the animated voice of the Flash.
Oh, yeah.
So he pops in as Cousin Fred, and Ian Buchanan, who we all love from Twin Peaks, is Scrooge. Mm-hmm. And he pops in and he's like, "Merry Christmas, Uncle." And in the script, and Ian Buchanan played it perfectly. His response, in the story, Scrooge is upset to see his nephews. What brings you here? Have Merry Christmas, humbug. That's the response. Mm-hmm. But in my script, the response was more like real driven, like from how family would respond when an unwanted family member shows up. So Charlie busts in and goes, "Merry Christmas, Uncle," and Scrooge's response is like, "Oh shit." And the whole crowd busts out, all 1,000 people started laughing. And right at that moment, right before they said that, I go to Mark and I go, "Is this working?" Because he's a producer. I'm like, "Does this feel like it's working to you?" And the whole crowd started laughing, and he looked at me like half a margarita in and goes, "Oh yeah, man, this is working." But to make a long story short, mm-hmm. or a little less about ourselves, I guess, that worked really well. So we were huddling up going, well, we should do a few different ones based on sort of the talent we have and bring in some real cast members mixed with some of our voice players around combat radio. And so we've come up with 4. We're going to do John Carpenter's Halloween. Ooh. We're going to do probably John Carpenter's The Thing. Ooh. And we're going to do Clue. And I would encourage anyone listening to this, if you want to hear something funny, mm-hmm. go back to our interview we did with Tim Curry. It was really good because he talks about playing Pennywise and scaring the hell out of the little kids from the gutter in costume.
Nice.
But also the director of Clue, Jonathan Lynn, has done a lot of combat radio with us. And I wanted to get him in to direct, revisit it.
Sure.
So we're going to do Clue, and then, we're talking about maybe House on Haunted Hill or one other. There's a couple of others that have possibly popped up. So the idea being we're probably going to do 3 or 4 of these things as like a Halloween fundraiser or a Christmas fundraiser. We don't know if we're going to do them this fall or just get through Christmas and start doing them in March, April, May of next year. Because people are still, with this Delta variant kind of going out of control here again in California, and people are starting to mask up, we really don't know actually where we're going to stand this fall. So it's still kind of on the table. The production blueprint is there. Mm-hmm. The cast is there. We're going to get some of the original people from those movies to be in it with us.
Oh, cool.
We had some great names for when we were shut down last year. We were in Christmas Carol again. Mm-hmm. And we were reaching out to some great people. We reached out to Annie Lennox for Marley. We reached out to Julie Andrews. We reached out to Billy D. Williams. My wife is a pretty sharp producer, reached out to some real talent. And COVID shut it down. So now we're thinking let's bounce back. We don't really know where it's all going to surface, but there will be some sort of fundraiser this October to help those in need. And there will certainly be something this December for Christmas.
Don't forget, Tyson, I got a balloon for you.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good version of it.
Float, Tyson. They all float. And when you get down here, you'll float too.
I have to admit, that's a pretty good impression.
That is a good Pennywise. So as you get more details of the event, be sure and keep in touch with us and send us to them, and we can pepper them throughout the we can bring them, in subsequent episodes, we can make sure that people hear that. So now people can hear the show that you're talking about, these shows over at brigaderadio1.org.
Yeah, I mean, all those shows are there. The entire online archives is there. We've also, we've got a bit of a YouTube channel that's got a lot of highlights from Tim Curry and Jonathan Lynn and all those guys. A lot of the people we discussed tonight are over there. John, Joe Alves, Gunnar Hansen, who passed away. Leatherface has got a couple of interview clips up.
Right.
That's YouTube/Brigade Radio 1. Basically, you can search it out.
Yep.
A lot of trailer commentaries over there too, and it's got the trailer for No Quarter, which is the book I got coming out called No Quarter, Kill All Masters. Comes out in August too. It's an audio book.
Oh, okay, cool. I saw something.
Incredible, really good, really fun. There's a trailer for it, and actually, it's really put together like a movie. It's got great soundscape design, great sound effects, really unconventional sort of storyline. So
nice.
Something fun for people who really want to wreck shop this fall.
No Quarter, Kill All Masters?
Yeah, it's called No Quarter, Kill All Masters.
Okay.
Or as I say in the trailer, No Quarter, Kill All Masters. Rated R.
Uh-huh. Nice.
I can say rated R. And then you can go to noquarter.com and get all the nonsense on it.
They were known as Lucifer and the Men with Painted Faces when they burned New Orleans to the ground. And when they sacked Panama, I knew that my road to redemption would be paved with tombstones. And by the time they brought the apocalypse to West Africa and the Indian Ocean, I would come to know two words with biblical significance. No Quarter. No Quarter. Kill All Masters. Rated R. Coming soon. Available on all platforms. Visit noquarterkillallmasters.com.
But yeah, so that's it. It's like it's all kind of unwritten, but we're fairly easy to find. The other thing, do you guys have a YouTube channel for the show?
Not specifically for the show, no.
Do it. You should do it.
I have my own one. Well, technically, I put episodes up on. I put the recorded version of this, like what you're seeing, up on at my YouTube channel. Basically, people just go to Tyson Center and or go to www.tysonsaner.com. You can find links to the show. You can find links to Tyson Saner Gamer. You can find links to Gaming Outside the Comfort Zone, to Succotash, all these things. They're all on my main list.
No one's going to want to link to this because I'm on it, but I think I will sort it out to see what other sort of mischief you guys have been up to. Okay. And I'll subscribe. I'll subscribe to the YouTube channel while I'm at it.
I know. Thank you. But I'll send you the link so you know where to go. And then so I'm pretty sure you might already be subscribed to me, but if you aren't, please do subscribe.
I would think I was, but I'm not really up to speed on my social media. I've been less and less involved with it. Honestly, it's depressing.
Yeah, I've been as well. Yeah, mostly since the end of 2016. I'm getting back into it now that Orange 45 isn't in office anymore.
Orange 45, yeah.
Well, he's a big part of it, right? I have to admit, but I don't like the tone and the nature of a lot of things around him. But
yeah,
I just think the whole thing in general has really taken up way too much of my time. And honestly, real life is an adventure. I get up there and I try to communicate where I'm telling people this publicly because you can still send me a message and I'll try to respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I try to get involved with it, but don't count on too much from me. I usually promote my, shameless production elements and try to respond to people, and then I move on. And I don't read it anymore. That's the thing that I think pisses off a lot of my friends, because I don't really have the time to scroll down, and I don't really care to be lectured or hear so much of it. I mean, it's like we grew up in a different time where we used to call each other and hang out, and that's what I'm trying to get back to, the real life contact.
Well, kind of doing that now as best we can.
Yeah.
With the world being as it is right now.
Yeah. It's funny because people be like, did you see my Facebook? I'm like, no, but you have my phone number. Why don't you just call me? It's so dumb to say, did I see? It's like, did I pass your billboard on the highway? No. What is? It's like, call me up. Tell me what you need me to do.
People, it's like they're sort of this, they figure they put it one place where a lot of people can see it, then everybody should have seen it. It's like some comedians are like, didn't you hear me talk about that in my set? Or am I?
I know.
No.
I'm guilty of it too. But it's interesting because for us, we get a lot of requests. We get a lot of concert ticket requests, Disneyland ticket requests. We get a lot of requests, but we seem to get requests from people mostly who do not care about the charity side of our show. That's what really kind of gets me chippy. I don't mind helping people out when I can, but if I just get bombarded with the requests, the mafia requests constantly, when people know that a good part of our agenda is charity work and they don't seem to have any interest, even the most basic interest of sharing a post that may help feed some kid in a shelter, that's actually what kind of burned me out. That I kind of have like a FU attitude. It's like, how dare you hit me up for concert tickets? Tickets. Where were you when we were trying to, through COVID, keep families from going out on the street? It gets very personal for me, and it gets very bitter for me. So
that makes sense.
There's a set of heroes around us. I would say you guys qualify. You guys always try to do what you can, and there's a lot of guests on Combat Radio that try to do what they can, and they get a pass from us. And then I'll hear from somebody maybe once a year who wants something for free, and I'm like, let's get some backpacks and school supplies to these kids in Watts, and then we'll talk about your Disneyland tickets, you cheap. Anyway, it's hard for me. So that's part of where, you log on to social media and you're just bombarded like, hey, can you get my script to this director, or can you do this for me? And I'm just like, where's the love for the society that's breaking down around this? I haven't seen you get involved with one charity thing, and we're quite well known for it at this point. That's,
it's hard to say. People check. Yes, Hunter.
We definitely love the charity work that we help you guys do.
Try to help as much as possible.
We'll try exactly. We look forward to it each and every year. In fact, when we were asked to do the Halloween album,
great
year.
cut, by the way.
Thank you.
That's available. People can find that.
The Haunted Tour.
We
fantastic.
We sat down for at least 3 weeks straight every day putting that thing together, and I can tell you, Tyson was a Stanley Kubrick. When it was you, sorry, Tyson, when he was directing. So there I was now keep in mind, I've never done voice work until that point. And he was like, listen, you're doing it wrong. I want 85 cuts of you doing this one line.
Oh,
Is that how you talk to him? To him? I don't picture you talking to him like that.
I'm kidding.
I was going to say, I don't remember Tyson ever being a tyrant. I know Tyson is dedicated to the craft, but I've never I've never seen a wicked side of him.
It was totally awesome. So essentially, I played the part of Fritz. He played the part of Mr. L. So, and he played he had the voice of like Christopher Lee. So I was like, dude, you could totally rock this. And of course, I was like this crazy guy that went through the. Don't take away my heat, Tyson, because every year. This is what I do, and I take it seriously, and and it might be real or it might not be real. You just don't know.
Tyson has broken down a lot of movies on Combat Radio over the 12 years or so. Yes. And I would tell you, he was always really prepared and very patient because he was stepping into like a live fire exercise.
Tyson, I can tell you right now, is one of the most awesome people I know.
Oh, for sure.
And it's been a pleasure to get to know him over these years, and again, even working on the Haunted Tour, it was awesome because I would get home, and that was the one thing I had to look forward to. It was great. We those 3 weeks we were working on it. We put it together. It sounded awesome. As I tell everybody, he is definitely he's the Dumbledore of this show because without him, his magic of editing. This wouldn't happen.
No, he's always been exceptional.
Yes, he definitely is. So I just show up and talk.
I appreciate that you're saying so. So
I just show up and talk, and that's it. I mean, he's the early days of doing Antisocial Show when I had the little crappy friggin' Toshiba laptop. We would have all kinds of issues, and you wouldn't know it. Because that's how great, right? Because that's how good he is. So
that's some stuff you can't hide.
Let's see, Tyson. We did Headless Horseman, Disney's Headless Horseman, Ed Wood's Plan 9. I think we did House on Haunted Hill with.
Yes.
I think we did Burton's Sleepy Hollow, which, if I'm not mistaken, features the work of my buddy Ray Park. So I think we've done a few movies together, and you were always very patient, and well prepared.
speaking of which, I actually did a combat radio. I did a combat radio episode years ago.
Was Ray Park on it?
I don't remember, but I was standing live in Sleepy Hollow Cemetery.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That was a good one.
Yes.
We're trying to get more interactive like that because we're trying to move in a different direction. I mean, we've been doing the radio thing for the colleges now. Kind of okay.
For the colleges, did you say?
Yeah, different sort of shows and different. It's like we want to do more visual stuff, so we're moving in that direction again. We're going to take a lot of what we did on the radio and we're going to jump out. We're going to actually try to capture a lot of it live. That's when we want to get a Sleepy Hollow again, and maybe a few others. I mean, that's why I was at the Lost Boy Bridge, and I was at the Dracula set, and the Star Trek set, and the Halloween set tomorrow, and I was at the House on Haunted Hill today. So it's almost like a TV production schedule now, but it's a little bit of a different dimension for us.
Get some puppets.
And hopefully well worth the time. What's that? Puppets.
Get some puppets and do some animation.
I love puppets, and if I had someone around me that could do animation, we would be all over it. So send someone my way if you come across someone. Want to do some animatics and some animations. We're open to it. We're just trying to get on our feet. I mean, Universal's got us running around trying to, try and piece together some possibilities, and we're trying to also, give the audience, the couple dozen audience members we can actually have some form of entertainment.
The event you were saying was going to be December 4th or 5th. Is that depending on whether it's a Friday or Saturday? Like, what day of the week is it usually? Is it Saturday?
It's always on a Saturday. It's the first Saturday of December. The reason I don't know if it's the 4th or 5th is because I can't recall the actual date. I've been through a lot.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that we got that out there. It's definitely the first Saturday of December this year in 2021.
Well, the GoFundMe to support it will go launch probably sometime next month. There's a lot of prizes involved. A lot of the celebrities that you can get for like a $5, $10 donation to it. So that'll start much earlier.
Okay.
The event will be Saturday.
Be sure to let me know when you start tweeting that out so I can start retweeting and whatnot.
I will. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, well, it's about all the time we have for Antisocial Show. I'm Tyson Sainer.
And I'm Hunter Block, and he's...
Our guest has been...
Ethan Dettenmaier.
Yes. Be decent to each other.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Peace!
Have a good time, folks.